What's happening, folks? Hope you're all doing well. It is Saturday today. I don't usually record on Saturdays, but there is a project that has just dropped that has piqued my attention. I've been seeing some really good praise and great feedback on this project, and the makeup of the actual members is very interesting as well. It is Ben English, who is the ex-vocalist of Invent Animate. I believe he was involved with Everchanger and Still World, the first two albums from Invent Animate. And then we have on guitars the current guitarist of Invent Animate, Mr. Keaton Goldwire. So that is a very interesting combination. I didn't love the first two albums from what the fuck, I'm just gonna keep rolling. I don't know what that actually was. I think my brain just temporarily shut down for a moment. I'm not going to cut it out. I didn't love the first two albums from Invent Animate. I am a massive Invent Animate fan. Basically, from Greyview onwards, the EPs, the albums, all the singles and everything that have followed after that. I mean, there's some amazing songs on Still World and Everchanger, don't get me wrong, but I think Marcus is just an absolutely incredible vocalist and has brought so much life to the band. So I don't really know much about Ben English, to be honest, but I know a lot of people love him. A lot of people prefer the older stuff from Invent, but the thing I'm really here for is Keaton. Keaton is the man, one of the sickest modern metal guitarists. Still probably doesn't get the credit he deserves for, like, does that make sense? Credit he deserves? Probably doesn't get his flowers for how good he is, but look, I'm sure over time, when Invent, you know, bring out a new album and get bigger and bigger. I only realized that Invent only have like 200,000 monthly listeners or some shit. I thought they would have been way bigger at this point. But this is a new project called PEUR, P-E-U-R, which I believe is like a French translation for fear or scare. So that tells me this is probably going to be quite dark, which is going to be interesting because Invent Animate's sound can be dark, but is usually quite like bright and pretty and atmospheric. So let's see. This is PEUR Fire Cleanse on UNFD. Let's go. All right. Okay, it's got an Invent feel for sure. What on earth is that sound? Okay. Cool visuals. It's always interesting hearing a new project and not knowing where they could possibly go with a breakdown. Fire Cleanse by Fear, or Scare, translated from, I think, French. Okay, let me hear this again. It's obviously a very technical song, a very dynamic song, depending on which way you're looking at it, I guess, with a lot of the guitar work. It's definitely dynamic from the guitar standpoint. Vocally, it stays pretty much in the same range, but a complex song, to say the least, in the way it's designed. So let me listen to it again, get an understanding of what this band is, and then we'll talk about it a little bit more in detail. Okay, so first impressions of the song, first listen, I think it's solid. I think the mix is great. I think the production's fun. I think Keaton Goldwire is the only credited, or I know he's the only credited producer on this. So Keaton's obviously trying his hand at the production world, and it's very notably inspired by Mirror and some of the other more prominent Thal bands. It actually has a bit of a Cat's Claw feel to it as well. Shout out to Cat's Claw. But I think the production elements and some of the crazy pitch shifted noises and effects and everything that's going on in the actual guitar world is definitely a little bit more inspired by Mirror than any other band in the modern metal space. Intrinsically, it does feel a little bit like Invent Animate, especially around the more atmospheric moments. And I think that's a fair enough assessment. It does include Keaton Goldwire, who's obviously the lead guitarist of Invent Animate, but it also has writing credits from Brody, who is currently in Invent Animate as well. And then obviously the vocalist used to be in Invent Animate. So it would almost be silly to suggest that it doesn't in some way, shape or form sound a little bit like Invent, because I know some people might come out and be like, it just doesn't sound anything like Invent. And I'm just, from the way I'm hearing it on a couple listens, I listened to it a few times as well off camera, and it does have an Invent flair. Now, that's not to say that it's like Invent Animate Part 2. I think that would be like disrespectful to just write it off as like, oh, a B-Tech version of Invent Animate. But it does definitely feel to me like this is like a creative outlet for Keaton to really step into his wacky experimental world. That, because anytime Mirror have put out a project or anything like that, any new songs with the last album, and I think even the EP as well, I've seen Marcus and the guys in Invent credit the band. They've been like tagging the band, and like, you know, I think we even spoke to Marcus about it on the Metal Roundup podcast about how much they're inspired by Mirror and just how weird Mirror can be. So I think that's kind of what the idea of this project is. Obviously, it's a cool bit of lore to have Ben English involved as well, because obviously I'm sure Keaton and Ben have been, you know, friends for years, and Ben's making his comeback after like 7 years to, you know, an actual musical project as far as I'm aware. So that's a pretty cool thing. I'll obviously be keeping an eye out on this project, but overall, the like idea of Thal music to me in this ballpark is a little bit played out. I'm not the biggest fan of Thal anymore. I've been very vocal about this, and I don't see any issues with people still enjoying Thal. It's just, if I'm being very honest with myself, I think I got so hyped about Viljarta when I heard the 2021 album or whatever it is with Staden Vatten. I played the fuck out of that. I got really into Thal music. I started listening to all of the different projects that were, you know, inspired by Viljarta, and I just really, I think, overstimulated myself with Thal music, and I started to notice that a lot of the Thal bands were just starting to sound very like copy and paste versions of Viljarta, just not doing it as good. And I've just kind of not really enjoyed Thal as its own entity. I've mentioned this a couple times as well. I think Thal is now best used as like an accent to whether it be like metalcore or deathcore or even some like progressive music. I think Thal is like a cool thing to sprinkle in now and again, but when the whole song is focused on Thal as like this atmospheric, bendy, almost incoherent style of music, it just almost becomes a little bit exhausting for me to listen to. Now, that is not to suggest that I think that this is that what I'm describing right now. I don't think this song necessarily is that, but it does have a lot of those elements where the vocals are all very intense. The guitars are low tuned, ridiculously low tuned and heavy, but also you have all these like crazy whizzing past your head sounds, like it's a bit sporadic, it's a bit chaotic. It does sound really good in terms of how it's all meshed together. Like the mix is great, but musically it just doesn't really click with me too much, you know. It's just a me thing. It seems like a lot of people in the comments of this video are enjoying it, but I don't know how much I'm like massively intrigued about hearing more of this style of music. I feel like I've heard so much of this. Granted, you do have an absolute wizard on the guitar and a very popular vocalist in the, you know, metalcore space that has a lot of history with the very good guitarist. So it'll be an interesting project to keep an eye on. Me personally, I don't massively love the song. If I go over to album of the year, which I'll do now, I will give this song, and again, I'm still trying to get on top of my actual ratings. So again, take all of these ratings with a pinch of salt. This is again something I've been experimenting with and doing a little bit more of at the end of my videos, where I actually give a rating. Again, I used to give ratings, but I don't know, I went off of that, and then I felt like the videos didn't really have much of a conclusion to wrap up all of my thoughts. I think this song is very good as an introduction to a project, but I just like in terms of the overall like soundscapes and like how well it's put together, if you compare this to like other bands' first ever song, it sounds incredible. It already fits right in with a lot of the modern Thal bands and a lot of the like kind of middle ground between Thal and metalcore. It fits into a lot of those bands, or that area, that territory already. But that is also kind of my issue with it, that it does just like fit in. It is still really good in moments, but there was nothing about this that made me like want to binge this song and listen to it multiple times over. So for that reason, I'm going to give this song, it's in the 70s. I'm going to give this song a 78 for my own tastes, okay? For my own tastes, I think I'm going to give this a 78 out of 100, which is not a bad score, but, you know, clearly I'm the outlier here based on 4 ratings. We have, okay, there's an ad. We have an ad now, apparently. Fuck off. We have Tundra with the 100, which I know for an absolute certainty is a meme, because I know Tundra and I know he absolutely rips the piss out of anything that's stall related, unless he's just seriously lost his mind. He's given this 100. There's a 95 here, an 88, an 80, and a 78. Okay, so me and Yobamos. That's my fucking guy, man. But anyway, guys, let me know what you would rate this out of 100. Let me know in the comments. I'm sure this is going to be a very pro Thal comments section, which is usually a bit of a disaster for feedback. So yeah, let me know what you think, lads. Leave a like in the video if you did enjoy. I'm out. See you in the next one. Cheers.